2019 at 6:31 to order. If we could all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Do we need Carter and Holland?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Do you need to?
I'm just going to try to bump the speakers and see if it helps.
Okay. I'm sorry, I need to have them face up.
Okay.
Mike, we're just going to try to add some speakers. Can you speak for just 1 minute?
Are they on?
Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3. Is that working okay?
No, I think that's softer.
I had speakers I could have brought. Big ones.
I apologize to the public. I would like to state for the record that Chairman Curry is participating both audio and visually remotely today. He is away on business, and I will be chairing the meeting. So we're just trying to get video, audio correct.
Can you speak again? Okay, no, it's worse.
Yeah, it's worse.
Thank
so
you, Holly.
Thanks for trying.
Next time I'll bring
All
in
right.
my boomers.
Are you there?
Can you see Mike?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I got a pretty view of the whole room. Thank you.
Okay, so I also would like to state that this meeting is being recorded for TCTV, or Templeton Community Television. It also goes on Facebook, and so that's Channel 8, Local Access TV. It goes on Facebook and our YouTube channel. Is anyone else in the room recording? Okay, seeing none. At this time, is there any public comment? Okay. So our first item of business is discussion and action on the FY21 budget guidance documents. So number A, or letter A, I'm sorry, is comparison communities.
Okay, with that, I want to thank the Board of Selectmen for taking the time and working with us on this, on these important documents in front of you tonight, moving into fiscal year 21. The comparison communities is voted on annually by this body, and is the instrument used to perform studies, and it essentially reduces the time we spend discussing which communities should be measured. As you can see, the criteria we use is right in the header of this document in front of you tonight, and the other communities that we examined from time to time, like last fiscal year 20, we changed a couple of these communities, which I believe were Lancaster and Ware, if I remember correctly. So with that, we use this and we look at the average single-family tax bill and this formula to really determine the affordability factor with the median household income. So you could kind of see where we're at with the other communities. As you can see, we are at 5.44%, which has us, I would say, on the lower end, but still in the middle for the most part moving forward. Now, was there any concerns or questions that the members of this board have regarding this?
Just, this posted online?
Not yet.
Not yet?
Not until it's approved.
Okay, the town of Ashburnham is in a regional school district, and it doesn't have notation 3 next to it.
You know what happened?
Just,
You're right, because it does, but because it's pushed over, you don't see it. So I can make that change. I'll try to get the.
just so it's,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
on there.
Good eye,
Yep.
Jeff.
I'll make sure we put that in there.
Sorry.
I was just reducing the font. If you can't fit it in there,
I could try to get it in there, so that way, before you sign it, well, if the select board votes in favor, and before you sign it, I'll make sure I try to take care of that.
Can't see Washington's either.
I still think this is reflective of, after we had changed last year, is much more reflective of the communities that we are comparable to.
8, 6, 8.
Thank you.
So is there a general consensus that this is still reflective of the communities? Does everyone feel, or does anyone feel that changes need to be made?
This is gonna go in front of the board. but
This is gonna come in front
Yeah,
of the board?
so just consensus at the workshop,
So
it's gonna come.
my only comment is approved and adopted on this blank day of blank 2019. It says December 11th of 2019, so could we please change that to a more reflective date of when we're actually going to vote to approve this?
Will do.
Thank you.
I have Selectman Bennett's change and Selectwoman or Chairperson for this meeting, for the date approved and adopted. But outside of that, I think it's
I'm just Chair Pro Tem, I'm still Vice Chair.
Vice Chair, Chair.
I'm just chairing this meeting. Okay, are we all good? Jeff, are you okay? Or did you have a change? You look perplexed.
No, I'm fine with it.
Did you want to see something different, or?
No, it would've been nice if all of them were regional school districts, but it's not that big of a deal. Not to me, anyway.
Okay. Okay. And then the next document is the countdown. Mike, did you have any other commentary? I'm sorry, I forgot to ask you.
No, I'm good to go. I think, what Jeff said about it would be nice to have, all regional school districts, but for the purposes of the chart, we're trying to measure a bunch of different demographics, so it would be nice, but I think that we've got a pretty good mix there.
I think that, historically speaking, we did try to do that, and a lot of the communities were out of our reach income-wise and other demographic-wise. That's why we had to take a couple of them off.
Yeah, no, this list makes perfect sense because we have to measure other demographics.
Right.
We're not gonna have a perfect fit for everything, but I think the list is good as stands.
Okay. Was that some of your concern too, Jeff?
Yeah, that was just my only
Okay.
thing I noticed.
Okay, moving forward to item B, countdown to town meeting, the next document.
Okay, now this is the countdown to 2020 annual town meeting. November will be a busy month given the fiscal year 20 events. So we want to draw your attention to certain dates here. Specifically, I think it was mentioned by Chairman Curry at the when this came in front of you initially, before you referred it to the workshop, on the convention of the committees, being in November. It was moved Thursday, December 5th, 2019. If that works for everybody, that's the date that we moved it to be reflective of previous times, even though it's moved up, moved it back to December, like we did some research before. And we're looking at possibly having it at the convention of committees at the senior center, our community senior center, where we'll hold it. And as it was mentioned in when we were doing the listening tour, on having pizza available, so plenty of pizza at the senior center.
Okay, that sounds good.
That's favorable to this board.
Yep, we go.
Any commentary, Mike?
No, none. I think it was a good date. It's, as it falls the day after, one of our meetings.
Right. Well, well, it says the TA sends out a budget guidance memo out to all on Monday, December 2nd. And our meeting before that is November 26th.
Yep. But we still have a workshop scheduled for December 4th, I believe.
Sorry, I need my calendar.
Would you like to speak to the original date of 11/21 and
Yeah,
the
we would have a
conflict
workshop.
with that?
Yeah, the original date, 11/21, brings us into, but let me get back to December
So we
4th.
would
Yeah,
have-
that's correct. That
We would
that
have a
is
workshop the 4th, and then the convention of the committees on the 5th.
Yep.
Okay,
I just want to clarify that first.
yeah, you were right.
But we had a problem with November, because it fell on the same day as,
The day before this, the day.
yeah, it was a
of
conflict with another,
Fall
Committee.
town meeting. Isn't the fall town
it was,
meeting?
yeah, it was one of those, I don't remember
20 at
offhand
6
which
p.m.
one
He
it was.
originally scheduled it for the 28th until I reminded him that was Thanksgiving.
Yeah, some of us need some time off,
And
Adam.
then he had tried
So
for
do
the
you.
21st, but the 21st was the only night we could get in the public informational session for the budget cutting.
Right,
So you're right, he did try very hard to get it in before you made your votes on the budget, because we'd like that. And it's just, there's just nothing that worked, and so he
I hope that-
landed where he had to.
I'm gonna hope that none of these run into snow dates, so, I mean, we're gonna pray for a mild winter.
Yeah, sometimes in the first draft, like Carter said, that
Yeah,
date popped up, and then it was like, oh.
One year was really bad, and then it was snow date after snow
Yeah.
date after snow date.
But sometimes when you work with certain calendars,
Yeah.
things like that happen.
Terry, do you have anything to add?
Thank you for asking. I was wondering if we shouldn't include the fall town meeting on 11/20 at 6 PM.
What,
We
on
can-
this list?
Yeah,
You wanna do that? Okay,
Yeah, that would be nice to probably have in there.
I could add that. Is that it?
that's all I can see so far.
Yeah, good call, Terry. I think that's a good add.
Yeah, we kinda use this as, our calendar Bible. Jeff, do you have anything to add?
Yes, I was thinking about, during the district-wide meetings and some meetings that we had with the school committee, I took the liberty and reached out to the chair and the superintendent to ask them if they were interested before, of attending the all boards thing, because we've been talking about getting together with them, talking this, that, and the other thing. And they are elected by the people of Templeton. There's 5 members on there from Templeton, and they're a committee and stuff. So I reached out, and I didn't know if they would, they might tell me no, but the chair, Margaret Hughes, responded and said she thought it was a good idea, and so once she said that, I just want to run it by the board if they think it's an
We
invite.
usually invite them.
And, I mean,
So we
hopefully
wanna
they
make
could
sure.
say, hey, look, this is how we're gonna do the budget this year, like the meeting, that Carter and myself, Tony DeJoy, Bob May, we met with the superintendent, and he said he was gonna do the budget a little different this year, and he was gonna come out with a set of numbers, and that was,
Okay.
instead of moving the stuff around like he did last year.
Yep.
And maybe they can speak to their plan about trying to get it earlier, and I just thought it was, if they were interested, if we invited them, if they
do
could
that.
make the date.
Okay, so we should let them know this early. The earlier, the better.
We'll take
But I
care of
told
that.
them that the date might change, it wasn't in stone yet, so, but she said, yeah, if, whatever the date may be, if it fits everybody's schedule. But she thought it was a good idea, and I'd like to attend, so
All right,
I just
that's
thought it was a
perfect.
good.
In order for us to get the notices out, I would say, however, that tonight is stone etching night.
It's
Well,
stone etching.
like I said, but we hadn't met to really discuss it yet, but, I mean, that's
Okay.
the date, you could just,
So we
reach out
should
to
make
them
sure
and-
that the superintendent and the chairwoman of the school
yeah, that's who I,
committee gets that.
that's who I emailed, just to see if they were, I didn't know if they'd be interested or not, but they
I
seemed
think
they
it's a
were,
good
so-
idea that they come, and I think it's a good idea that you ask them about that.
So I just thought I'd see what they said before, rather than wait, I'd already know in advance whether they said no or yes, so.
Okay, that's perfect. Okay, So if this is stone etching night, then is there a general consensus to etch this in stone?
Yes, do we make a motion or just?
No, we don't make motions in workshops, but we just give a general consensus to the town administrator. Mike, do you have any other additions or corrections, or are you good with this?
Good with it, thank you.
Okay. Okay, I guess the general consensus is yes?
We'll get the mailing out probably sometime next week.
Okay, thank you. Item C, goals in a work plan.
Your goals and work plan, we had the goal-setting retreat a while back. You could see here, this was sent to all the department heads, with their feedback and their timetable on what they believe can be accomplished, what can't be accomplished. We knocked off quite a few that we made progress with, because the last one was 2 pages on this long sheet. We were able to bring it down to 1 sheet, with what we're gonna be planning and whether it's ongoing. I know Diane suggested to take the ongoing out, and I put the O's in. Jeff's, Selectman Bennett's suggestions were added, as well as the rest of the board. So we really went through. We had a long night over at the senior center, or community center, and we were able to finalize this.
So I reviewed it. Nice work. Nice work to the board. I did have a question about the review of the school district agreement and options. There's an O for ongoing, and then a 1. The October 2nd joint workshop with Phillipson will tell a lot. I guess I just want a reminder of what came out of that, if you wouldn't mind humoring me.
Well, I'm jaundiced, so I would probably say not much.
Okay.
I think there was some agreement between the 2 boards that a recall should be written up, in the belief
Okay.
that if town clerks, you all elected people should be recalled, that should be across the board. So we've reached out and asked them for their regular recall statute so we can match that up, and I'll do a draft on that.
Okay.
There was discussion about other areas of the agreement
Okay.
that needed some discussion, and whether or not to involve the school district. Conversely, there was discussion about every time that's been raised, they've kind of said, well, you have the ability to submit proposals and the like. So working with town council, we have identified someone that we believe is a recognized expert on education law in regional school districts, because town council will acknowledge he is not. That's not what he does. So they had a death at the firm, and so communications, we've been playing a little bit more tag than I'd like. My plan is to try to get that counselor in front of you. I don't think we're gonna get it done for the 13th. I think it'll be more like the 26th. You can have a conversation, determine if you wanna retain them as special counsel, then we can kind of regroup and see where to
Okay.
go from there.
Okay.
That was the plan, as I understood where we were headed.
But everything else looked right to me, what we had talked about.
Diane, I have something.
Yeah?
So in reviewing it, I think that a lot of the items that we needed changes on or updates happened. There are some items that are listed that don't have ongoing. They don't have that ongoing planning, starting, implement, finish identifier on it. If we leave those off, is the rest of the board okay with that? Understanding what the issues are, or should we fill in the blanks? One example is we had talked about live cast meetings, so people sitting at home could watch this as it occurs. And I know that Steve has talked about how to do that, the costs associated, but we didn't have an update. I think maybe for the items that don't have any kind of status or projection, are we awaiting outside input? Over.
Well, right now I talked with Mr. Castle, and this was a while back when this was first brought up. I believe it was originated from the previous board that made the suggestion, but I want to be able to see where this board wants to go. Do they want to live cast? We didn't really cover that specifically. So I kind of just wanted to have that more at the discretion of the board and where they want to go. That way I could coordinate with Mr. Castle. I don't want to have to put it in there myself and then have the board say, whoa, we didn't agree to this. So sometimes it's better to proceed with the side of caution, but also have it as one of our goals. So therefore, if you did want to pursue this, let's say fiscal year 21, you already have it there and say, you know what, this is what we want to do. We're going to go forward with this, and we're going to start planning it now, and we'll start implementing it in fiscal year 22. It comes with a cost. I think with the events of the fiscal year 20 that we continuously are working on that, some other items that do come with some expense are unfortunately we go and proceed with caution.
Mike, do you remember at the workshop where we were only going to identify goals and we weren't going to actually discuss the goals until a later date?
Yes, I do recall that. But as far as like review for the document, I think that we did adopt this to say that we agree with everything on this plan, from the lofty goals to the lengthy goals and otherwise. So I guess I put it back to Carter and Adam to say, what's the feedback for this? Some of these items are going to require department feedback to say, you know, loud and clear, I got you. Or, hey, this one that some of the time frames that you've added to it are not realistic, or that number is not correct. If we're adopting this and we're moving forward with it, what is the feedback mechanism? How are Carter and Adam going to use this with the department heads to say this select board's product looks like? Feedback from the people that are impacted by these goal-setting activities.
So,
Well, I could say Mr. Castle works well with the board and our office, and if you wanted to proceed with adopt it whatever year, I talked with him about the price he's projecting at. If you were to go with the live casted TV on the TV station, he's thinking $7,000. But if you were to do it to the YouTube, Facebook, it'd be $5,000. But Carter wanted to.
If I might, I think Mike is right. The object of this document is for the board to adopt it. That then goes, so you have your conversation, you have your retreat. We then send that out to the department heads to say how much and when could you do this. The board then adopts it, and that then makes it an instruction to them as to whether or not it should be in their budget. So I believe I had not noticed that we had some blanks there. The chairman is correct. We need to circle back to these department heads and say, okay, now let's get a little bit realer about when this can happen.
So
I would not want to, I'm sorry, I didn't.
No, if you weren't finished, I didn't mean to
I would
interrupt.
not want to see a replay of where the department head hadn't involved themselves perhaps as closely in one project, and then mid this year came to realize, oh, that set of documents was actually an instruction to me to do something. So I would suggest that we circle back to some of the blanks, get this filled out before we bring it into you for approval and adoption. That would mean we would defer from 11/13 to 11/26 for adoption.
Well, one of them is update selectmen policies and procedures. That's blank.
Yeah, I think,
That originated from this board.
Well, I could tell you certain items, for example, like the live cast meetings to TV, live on the TV station, and live cast
That
meetings to
came from the
YouTube,
previous board.
Facebook. The board wanted to determine which option or both do they want to go with, because these do come with a cost. And quite frankly, I mean, I could reach out and coordinate, but I mean, if you want to do this, we can make this happen, but do you want to do both? Do you want to do one? Do you want to take them off? That's up to this board to determine.
but I think the department has to be involved in the viability of doing these things. So simply saying that's my number is not as
Yeah, we
deep a
don't really know.
discussion as I would respectfully, Adam, suggest you need to have with the department heads. So I think rather than going through them item by item, let us just circle back and get this fleshed out a little bit better for you.
Yeah, I'm happy with that. If this is our list going forward, we've got to have some input, feasibility, if you will, and then we can, if that's what's required from some of the items. And Diane, just like you said, if it's on us under administration, if updating selectmen's policies and procedures are there within the selectman's office, we can determine that. So we have a due out for this document.
Right.
Now that we've basically given it our tentative head nod to say, yep, we're happy with this, aren't we?
Well, I mean, I think that, updating the selectmen's policies and procedures, that ought to be for fiscal 2021. I mean, that's an annual thing, and that ought to be for fiscal 2021, and I would hope that this board would agree with that.
Sounds about right with everything we're going through.
I mean, I'm not sure why we didn't decide on that. I mean, that should be an annual. I don't know if there were things that were wrong with it. I mean, again, it was goals that we needed to do, and I'm not even sure who had brought that up.
It wasn't
But
me, but
It may have been me.
Yeah.
It might have been on one of the goals that I needed to finish before I leave office at the end of my term. So, I mean, if it's for me, it needs to be done in FY '21 before the end of my term. So, I mean,
Can I offer an example? So, in those policies and procedures, that the book that, I call us the three freshmen, when we get that book and we read through it, all of the policies and procedures, there's an item in there that talks about doing field trips. Like, no selectman can go out and view a site without permission from the board, or we all go out there, or something like that. That's the kind of item review that I think that we owe that product, to say, we're never going to be able to all get together to go on a field, to go check out a gravel pit or something like that. I think we should review it to say that the board, understanding issues, gets permission. It's that kind of review that I think that we could do, but I
Okay.
100% agree with that. That should be a 20 or 21 goal.
Madam Chairwoman, may
well, we're
I
running,
interject?
well, then it should be FY 2020. I'm sorry, I'm like already into 2021. And I won't be here in
But I
2021.
think that we
Well,
put on, not in the end,
So-
we've got
We'll circle back.
a lot of stuff going on within the next couple of months, but if we
Okay,
sit here and have a discussion
I
of it,
agree.
even if it's ratification for what we already have.
May I interject?
yes,
On the town site, there's a draft policy for internet that was never finished.
I have several that I have in my office at home to go over with Carter to find out where their standing is.
So would that
That
come
came
under
from the
that?
previous,
Yeah, would
no,
that
they're
wouldn't
just,
be under this?
they're policies that came from the previous board that I'm
Yeah.
not sure anything was ever done with.
Yeah,
so,
so
but
that
this
wouldn't
is
fit
different.
into that,
Mm-mm.
okay. Thank you.
Good point.
One of them is find a permanent location for the recreation department. Has that even been talked about?
We already met with Scott Dill, and we've been working
Okay,
on that. I mean, there's been
So is
proposed
that-
uses with,
ongoing?
it's ongoing.
Okay, so that needs an O in it.
Let's
I-
circle back with department heads and get this thing filled out.
Okay.
And next we look at it, we can adopt.
Okay. Is that all we have for item C? Is there anything else? Seeing none, we will move on to item D, general budget guidance.
Okay, I'm gonna start off and, here you see that you have a letter. The first one Carter actually drafted, and I'll kind of let him go over his letter.
So, we, at this point, do not have a school budget yet, as you know. And Diane, I believe Adam was there with us that night, Jeff was, and I think we all walked away with some level of distress, because there's so many other things that have to happen in order for us to get the tax bills out on time, and if we don't, then there's consequences. So, as I was thinking about it, I thought, there really are three very unique levels of risk. First, the school district is running the risk that it could actually get a lower budget than what the district meetings have offered it. The commissioner can set a lower number, he can set a higher number than what they're asking for, he can set a number in the middle. All bets are off once it lands in his lap. Also, the district is running the risk of a loss of local control. And that was not discussed that night. I was not as quick on the draw as I should have been. I thought about it 45 seconds later after the vote in speaking to a reporter, but hadn't thought to bring it up when you were speaking to the fact that the district had voted 3 times. And finally, I think the risk to both towns of not being able to set their tax rates in a timely manner to get their bills out in time so that we can collect on February 1 and we can avoid the need for a tax anticipation note was not given the kind of consideration that perhaps it should have been. And in fact, the members of the school committee do not set tax rates and do not send out tax bills, so frankly, they may not even be thinking about it. I mean, this is not normally in their wheelhouse. So I have drafted this letter, which basically revisits those 3 risks that I've just outlined and asks them to give some consideration to accepting the number that the district meeting has approved. And subject to some typos and perhaps some edits, such as Diane, you're suggesting here. I would seek your approval for us to finalize this and to have it available for your signature over the weekend, such that it could go out early next week, because I do believe these truly are real risks.
I appreciate it.
And I'm not sure that
I thought
these
the letter
risks
was excellent.
are worth the gamble. The end results are worth
Brilliant.
the risk.
I thought the letter was excellent. I did have a few,
Yep.
just typos and some consistency things.
Yep.
Like the last one needs to have a bold.
Right.
Because you had bolded the others,
Yep,
and then there's
absolutely.
just a couple of typos and nothing big. And I think it's spot on, things that need to be discussed. And does anybody else have any commentary on the letter? Mike? Is Mike thinking?
I think he's,
No, I clicked the unmute button.
Oh.
Yeah, the letters are great, and I think we need to get them out as soon as we possibly can.
Okay. All right, that's perfect.
Jeff
And-
appears to be cogitating over there. Jeff, any changes, additions, deletions, rephrasings?
Hit the print button and send it.
Well, he has to
After I've
fix
made a
some
couple of
typos
those
first.
edits.
It needs to happen sooner rather than later.
Sure.
Yeah. And then you have another letter?
that's my letter.
thank you.
Oh, Adam, it's lovely.
It's a great.
Well, I mean, I changed some wording because I had in the original
Oh,
one.
so this one isn't the correct wording?
Yeah, I have
You have a new
I have a
draft?
new draft. The
Okay.
only change is the second sentence, instead of the town of Templeton, I don't want it to seem too like that, so I changed the wording to the district-wide meetings are at a deadlock with the
Oh,
IRS
okay, yeah,
days.
that's
So
better.
that was the only, I have the changes here.
Was that scanned and sent out to Mike? Was that scanned and sent out to Mike?
I'm still thinking about it. You could even phrase it a little differently
Thank
than
you.
that.
Sent out to Mike.
I mean, because I think the important thing to do here is, the senator and the representative, as well as the governor, already received correspondence from our constituents, as well as, even though but I think having something formally from the board will certainly let them know the challenges they're facing, the district, if you will. So I think this will definitely bring more of awareness around the situation that we're more of an update, as
Yeah.
well as the urgency of the matter.
I agree. Did Mike get this updated draft via email at all?
Well, the only change in that
Okay.
is just the district-wide meeting that I went over just before. I mean, I could email it to you, but it's up to you.
I just think sometimes we like to have the most recent copies of stuff.
Or you can put it in your box.
We'll get it out to him by email at the end of this meeting, so that before it goes to that print button that Jeff's
Wanting us to do.
wanting us to hit, he has a chance to look at it. We can make any final adjustments, so we can have it ready for signature, the two of them at the same time, if you agree with the concept of sending this letter out.
I'm sorry, when would they be ready?
Over the weekend.
Okay,
We'll have them ready tomorrow, so
So
they
you
can go
could
out in the
come-
mail Monday.
okay, so we can come in and sign
Yeah.
them at, okay.
Yep.
It's not this.
Now,
No, it's-
I'm out here until tomorrow. No, I'm sorry. I'm out here until Friday. If you, Holly, if you want to get the mostly signed document and send it to me on a PDF, I have the full version of Adobe. I can actually sign it and send it right back to you.
Can we just sign them this weekend so that we can have Mike's original signature? Especially to go to the governor,
You
and
said by Monday, so.
Yeah, I mean, as long as,
it would be ready this weekend, Mike.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
we're gonna need the signature anyways.
Yeah,
We'll
I would
send them
prefer
out.
an original signature.
Yeah.
Today is Veterans Day.
I didn't hear you, Mike.
Remember, Monday is Veterans Day, so a holiday.
yeah,
Yes.
he's right, he's
Right.
right.
Hey, Veterans Day, I forgot about Thanksgiving, so
Yeah, ha, ha,
we
ha.
all forget our day.
Okay. That's perfect.
For letters to the governor, what we sometimes do is we actually scan it and send it to the senator's office, and they actually have somebody hand carry it up for us.
So then it wouldn't matter if you electronically signed.
I know, but still.
Okay, we're all set with that?
I
Yes,
appreciate
thank you
your
very
effort.
much.
And finally, on this budget, the guidance, if you will, for fiscal year '21, we have to ultimately decide where you want to proceed with the fiscal year '21, whether you want to go to a level service budget, a level budget, level funded budget, retrenchment, or expansion.
Thank you.
Now, I think, obviously, expansion's off the table. And we're ultimately left with three options at this point. And how do you want to proceed as a board?
And for this exercise and conversation, you really need to sort of live in this fantasy world that Prop 2.5 in the school district is not constraining you. This is more of a philosophical, based upon the current level of services and taxation, and where you believe it's best for the community to go.
Yeah, that's a very good point, Carter. because it's the first thing that I think of when asked that question. So, you know, what are we supposed to do, knowing that that elephant in the room is 100% there? So have the philosophical discussion is really, what's the difference for me? What's the difference between level service and level funded?
Well, level service, basically you keep the same services as they are, but cost goes up, and level funded is basically the funding stays the same in the department.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if Diane's gonna chime in, but, you know, I would really like to get back to where we're supposed to be with public safety.
Me too.
Yeah,
I mean, it's just, we can't,
go ahead.
it's so hard. I mean, philosophically, it's nice to have a philosophical discussion, but in all reality, there's no way that my brain is not gonna go to a logical discussion. I mean, the school's gonna take our money. I'm sorry to word it that way, but, you know,
Well, this is sort
I
of
mean, it's
a,
level funded or level service, and I really wanna, that would be an expansion budget, Mike, and we can't have that.
Yeah, I
So,
agree.
I mean, we can't, that would be an expansion budget, and we can't have that.
And honestly, you
And-
gotta think in terms of, you have about 400K with, if you look at 2.5
No, we don't.
new growth of new revenues.
We're not gonna have that.
But you have to look at and we're gonna get into that later when we get to the revenue, but you gotta keep
Well,
that in
that's where my
mind.
logical brain is
Yeah.
going. We're not gonna have that, Adam. We're not gonna have that.
if I might, Browning, in the poem Andrea del Sarto once wrote, but the man's reach should exceed his grasp, but what are the heavens for? And so this is sort of, imagine the possibility. Yeah, yeah,
I'm sorry.
the philosopher comes out. So, I mean, we would ask you to take that side of the coin and then task us with dealing with the realities, and you being willing to accept the realities when we go to present them.
I wanna have the services that we have. So is that level funded?
What I'm hearing is level services, provided, however, that you would like to see us try to expand public safety
Yes.
elements
Is that what you would
of
like
the
to see? Is that
budget.
what you would like to see? Is that what you would like to see, Mike? That's what I'm hearing Mike say. But what are you saying, Terry, and what are you saying, Jeff?
I gotta live in reality.
I know, but we're supposed to be having a philosophical discussion.
Well, here's,
I put my philosopher book away.
I know.
My
It's so hard.
mine is,
You know, it's nice, it'd be nice to say, yep, I want this, or it'd be
know.
cool to have that, but the reality is, start with a level funded budget and see where we go. I mean, first of all, depending on
we
what
can't see.
the commissioner says for a school budget, and that's gonna be in effect until we vote the next school
We
budget.
have to
If
make
we
our
do
round of
that.
cuts, right.
You know, they're here till May, and if we do this, repeat this again, then the commission's gonna stay here till till we vote a budget. So, like I said, I put old Mr. Rousseau and Descartes and all of them away, and just live in reality.
Mine was Browning.
Brownie.
That was Browning.
Well, you know,
And just live
So
in
you
reality right now.
You want
I'm
level
just-
funded.
is level funded.
you mean we can't
Which
save
means,
anything?
level funded, which means you will struggle to pay for some things, and you might have to do with less, because you keep the same money, but costs go up. So and some things you're gonna have to divert more money to, regardless. You have labor contracts with increases. We already know that, I think, what is it, the next 15 years, Worcester County's gonna be double digits estimated, so that's at least 10%. The school, no telling, where that will go for fiscal '21. No telling what the winter will be. I mean, and that's a non-budget thing, but it's something you gotta, deal about. That money's, you're gonna have to pay for it. It's gonna end up on the tax rate, because the DOI will tell you, hey, guess what? You gotta pay your debts boom, here you go. So I think, I would be in favor of starting a level funded and, you know, plan on that, and if maybe the money gods or somebody shines down on us, smiles on us, you could make adjustments, you know, later on. But that's just, that's my.
So
thought
in a
is-
level funded budget, do cuts already have to be made?
Well, you will have, because as things go up, you know, you're gonna have to deal with less, some places, you know, you got less paper, less this, less that.
What is the
It's just-
significant difference in level service and level funded? Significant.
Level services include other costs, like Selectman Bennett was pointing out, where if somebody's pay goes up, for example, you have to offset it with something else.
Yeah, see, I don't
Because
wanna
you
make those
can't,
cuts.
you can't go above what the previous year
Because every
was.
department will be cut. Every department will be cut if you do level fund. Every single department will be cut.
Well, sometimes you end up pushing it to a department that has larger resources, and they end up absorbing that cut, which in our instance, unfortunately, we're back at the public.
Right.
All right, and we're back at public safety with it, and I can't,
I would rather be able to have the sources or find a way, or, again, maybe, you know, somebody smiles on us and House One, they increase stuff. I would rather be
I
able
doubt
to
House
say,
One is gonna
make
increase
adjustments
anything.
up, rather than start big and then find out whoops, we gotta go back.
But every year, Carter does a lump sum disallow. You know that, right?
No, I missed that part in the budget book, yes, I know that. It's just, I would rather just,
But I'm just
that's
saying,
just
if,
my thought, whatever, you know,
no,
that's my
I'm
opinion.
not, I'm not saying that I disagree with you, because I'm concerned that, you know, I mean, the logical part of me is, you know, we have what Adam told us, we would have this whole, you know, $400,000, and we all know where it's gonna go. And it's the elephant in the room, it's all gonna go to the school. And then some. And then some, because they're gonna ask for a significant amount this year as well, and my projection is over 800,000. That's my projection.
Well, the commission will be in town for a long time then, I guess. Like I say, I would rather just go on a conservative side and be able
So,
to adjust upward.
If we level fund, say, I don't know, let's just say the accounting department, and it's $300,000, and we know that their Worcester County retirement goes up $100,000, so in order to absorb that $100,000, you're gonna make a cut in their department?
No.
No,
It would
no,
be-
I just wanna make sure I'm
Okay.
understanding this.
if I might, let me use an example of a $1 million budget.
Okay, thank you.
And let's say that you tell us you want a level funded budget. That means next year, we bring you a $1 million budget. So some departments will have increases, but no room to cut, no room to absorb them. So those cuts get pushed off to other larger departments where they have enough room to absorb them. Bottom line is, when we come in and put that budget up on that screen, it is $1 million. 1 million this year, 1 million next, level funded, exactly the same dollars. Level services is, we have, you know, X number of employees this year, we provide these services. We want the same services next year. So all the departments come and say, my fuel has gone up, this has gone up, I need this, I need that. That budget could, as a for instance, come to $1,050,000, but it is level services. This is the cost in this year of exactly the same service. Level funded, dollars are the
Yeah, I
same.
understand.
Level service, services are the same, the dollars change.
May I ask a question? So if it is a million, what did you say, 50,000,
Just as an
The
example, by way of
service.
example.
would you have to, how would you raise that extra 50? Would you have to go into debt?
So the way this works is you tell us what you would like, your services to be. The department heads tell us what they need to do that. And then we have that magic one cell on the Excel spreadsheet where we keep looking, are we in deficit or are we over? And we end up then having to bring you the sad reality, or the means by which you can get there. So perhaps not in this town, but perhaps in a town you say, this is what you want. We can't get you there the way it is now. But this service over here, if you made this an enterprise fund and it paid for itself, then we can get you all these services you want over here. So that's what you wanted. This is how to get there. What do you think?
Okay. Mike, you want level service or level fund?
Well, I think, it's interesting. We've been preaching level service.
You want level service?
Well, that's what we've been preaching.
Yeah,
But
level service.
I ultimately hear Jeff and Terry, talking about reality, or what is
That's
it over?
Jeff, I'm dreamer.
She wants,
I'm dreamer.
do you want level
I
service?
dream big. I
think
have
that
faith that
level service-
Adam and Carter might be able to pull it off if it's a little over.
So I want level service.
I want level service, but I'm almost not even looking at the fact that we're having our school district problem. It's
Yeah.
almost like I've got my head.
Well,
in
I
the
think that usually what happens is we dream, and then we get sucker punched in the gut, and we get brought back to reality, and it's usually somewhat level funded. So even though we're gonna say level service, it's probably not necessarily going to work out that way, because we're already, we're already having to make cuts. So we can dream big about bringing police officers back, but
Let us see if we can draft a statement for you that acknowledges you may succumb to reality,
yeah,
but would hope that we could
I
maintain a
think we'll
level
end up with
services.
what Jeff
budget.
wants, is that's level
That
funded.
level funded.
Yeah,
And that's,
Jeff is the more logical, I'm the more emotional.
We'll find the happy medium.
and I'm the dreamer.
Yeah, don't be
So
attaching
logical,
logical
to me.
emotional
Carrie.
dreamer.
Yeah,
Logical, emotional dreamer.
Mike is logical too, but I think that we've always tried to say to the public that we would try to maintain services, but within reality. But they usually bring us back to reality because we can't have what we want. And the reality of the situation is we already had been shown a graph about Worcester County retirement, and we were shown that last year. And it was supposed to go up astronomically, so we are going to have to scale back. And we already said that we would not sacrifice our financial team, because that's why we are in the good standing that we're in. We do need to bring back police, but I don't know how much of a reality that is, Mike, and you know that I'm on board with that. It hurts my heart to even say that we are down 2 officers. So I think that we should just say, like what most of us want, level service, and then I think we're just gonna be brought back to reality anyway.
So can I ask a question, please?
Mhm.
So when we say level service, would we bring them back and then have to let them go again
No,
if
we
it
would never
was
do
level
that.
funded?
No,
We would never
We
do
just
that.
that would be
keep
an
it-
expansion.
Oh,
That would be an
okay.
expansion budget, and we can't do that.
Okay. Because I mean, I do.
I'm saying at this point, level service in the police department is low. These are
that's where you're
low
upset.
expectations.
Yeah.
And we are willingly and knowingly putting police officers in the street and not doing proper loss mitigation.
Okay.
So that's where we're at.
Okay.
Thank you, Adam.
Thank you. If I can, could we move to the revenue and expense estimates?
Yes, that would be fine.
Kelly's here.
So we're on, item G.
We are on item G.
Yeah, we're skipping over E and F for right now.
Yeah, look at Kelly's here, and I had her do some work, because as you know, Kelly prepares this. I come up with Carter with the number to the far right column. As you know, as we already talked about, with revenue, and we're looking at about 400K, with the X factor being the 2.5, the Y factor being the new
Thank you,
growth,
Kelly.
the Z factor being the excise tax, and the A factor being the state money. Kelly's passing out, I had Kelly go through all the numbers, because Selectman Bennett brought up some of the numbers being a little off, so I made sure Kelly went through and looked at what the numbers were on the site. I wanted to make sure that everything was as the latest information that we have to going forward. Generally, you know how this works. You look at the numbers, we drop the high, we drop the low, and we try to come up with a conservative number moving forward with our revenue. So any question pertaining to the far right column could be to me, and coming up with the other numbers would be Kelly. We both worked on this together, so we might chime in and out on this one, so bear with us. It took Kelly some time to go through this, make sure everything worked out, so we kind of throwing a lot of stuff at you.
Yeah, yeah.
They include all the time you spent on it, right?
Yeah. And I've tried to make it as colorful as possible so you can actually see where the numbers came from. So if we look at the main cover sheet, the 2015, with regards to, Jeff, your questions that you had that night at the select board meeting, if you look at 2015, and the second page is what is actually on the report this year of the revenue, okay? You'll see that the number that came out is 168,877. Okay, so then the next report attached shows you what was actually collected in that year. I included that 1990, you know, and then the rounding to make it even, into the personal property tax, the miscellaneous. I guess I shouldn't have done that. I should have just made it the personal property. So that's the difference for that one. 2016, again, just to go across the top, I did the same thing that year. I included the minor miscellaneous tax that came in, and I did that all across the board. For this particular year, I didn't do that. We didn't have any miscellaneous tax, but you can see that in each one of the reports. When you go down then, on the second page, you'll see where the real estate taxes, the $7,972,785, the new growth of $75,613, the debt exclusion of $1,029,115. Okay, so that's what you're gonna see on your revenue sheet for this year. So what I did is I broke it down by each one of the pieces and gave you the actual backup for those numbers. So on the revenue ledger, the actual real estate taxes that were collected was $9,077,513.29. Okay, and then if you look at the next page, you'll see that.
I don't know what page you're on, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. So, page 2, page 3, page 4, the fourth page.
Okay, sorry.
That's okay. So on your fourth page, you'll see where I've highlighted in yellow what was the new growth. And this comes directly from the Department of Revenue and what the debt exclusion is, okay? So the difference of that is the new growth was a different amount that came through than what was at that time actually in the reporting. So that's where that difference came in. The debt exclusion is the same, and so on. Now in 2016, you'll see, if you go to the next page in your packet, you'll see that The amended FY15 new growth is $4,989. I included that in the FY16, but it's technically new growth from FY15. So the differences are the new growth. That's the only differences there was in any of those years. So the two factors is the new growth amounts and the miscellaneous tax of why they're different. You know, and when you have time, you can sit and go through each one of these pages. I've highlighted in the color for the column so you can read it, see where it came from. I don't want to spend the time to go through that because I'm sure this is something you'll want to analyze and go over. Let me know tomorrow what you don't like about it. So that way then you'll have all of the facts for those numbers.
Yeah, so, I mean, we just want to make sure that you're getting all the information that you could get moving forward, because when we chatted, I looked at it, and then that's when I went down and I talked with Kelly. I said, hey, Kelly, we have to go through these numbers, make sure that the select board get all the information possible. So, you know, we want to make sure that this is the most open and straightforward way we
Right.
could bring this to you.
Yeah. And
I appreciate it.
if you go back to, so this is what we've put out for 21. We had the revenue budget for 20. We had the revenue budget for, I believe it was 18, was the first year. We didn't deduct the debt exclusion or the new growth. At that time, Carter, we didn't look at that, didn't take that really into consideration. It wasn't until the next fiscal year that, you know, we discussed that and thought that would be a change we would need to make. So you will see that FY18 is totally different, but it's because then in FY20 or do we do it 3 years? I don't know. The very first year, it did not have the new growth and the debt exclusions deducted from the actuals.
That answers my,
Yeah.
that was my question.
Yeah.
Because I
yeah.
went back and I looked at 17 and the 20 and
17, yes.
it didn't matter. That was my question for tonight. So
And-
I appreciate this, and
Yeah.
I don't know about anybody else, but I will be looking at this tonight after
Yeah,
the meeting.
I'm sure.
We would expect nothing less.
And I know, and I
Back of
like,
my eyelids.
I appreciate the explanation, so
Yeah.
I like the
Plus,
yellow highlights, the highlights are helpful.
I can be lazy tonight, so I won't have to go searching for all of this
Right?
stuff.
Right, yeah,
But I know, I
Beautiful.
really appreciate this.
yeah. You know, it gives it more
just-
clarity of
I'm a
where
pain
the
in the
numbers
butt, I
come
know that,
from
but
and,
I just,
you know, so,
And
Well,
this-
when you
this-
showed it though, we were like,
yeah,
okay,
I
we
wanted
gotta,
to figure out exactly why there was the difference and.
and I know I can think of at least one other individual I know that really looks at this stuff, and I'll just get those questions answered for him.
Okay, there you go.
Save a little trouble. But I really appreciate this. And
Okay.
like I said, I had 2 questions tonight I came in with, because I remembered you said Carter was gonna ask you to be here tonight, and you answered them both, so thank you.
Okay, good. Okay,
This will evolve. Remember, we started doing this when some of our records were still not as pristine as we would like, and not necessarily in the categories that we would like, so we can make the good judgments following these rules that have been set out. This will be on your agenda for the 26th of November for adoption. It has gone to the advisory committee. We will get the 8x12 glossies color-coded out to them as well, so that they can comment. We've told them that we need their comments in enough time for you to consider them. The important thing about this is that if you're not comfortable with them, we need to reduce them, adjust them, because that is what sets the baseline for what we can expend.
and if I could also note too, oh, sorry, Mike? Or Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead.
Oh, I was also gonna note too, on the countdown calendar, because of the work plan with the goals, we're gonna circle back with that. If we could just in the countdown calendar, if the consensus is fine here, to include the goals on that November 26th as well. So we'll be discussing the revenues, the goals, and
That's
the
fine.
countdown,
That's-
that business meeting.
Yep. That makes sense.
I mean, taking those items for action that night.
That's fine. Mike, that's fine with you?
Yep.
I think that makes sense.
I think he's giving us a thumbs up.
Oh, okay,
Thanks, Mike.
Yep.
Nice.
okay.
Do you want to speak to the 5-year expense projection?
Yes,
Why that is not here tonight?
We did a rough draft of the 5-year, because the financial management policy calls for us to do a 5-year projections of, and where we'll be at. Unfortunately, because we don't have a school number, it's very difficult to project where we're gonna be in 5 years. So in order to give us the best forecast, we will wait until we get that, and then we'll provide you with that once we get a school number.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's causing a lot of delays. Okay.
Thanks, Kelly.
Thank you, Kelly.
Oh, Kelly wants to give you another update.
I just wanted to let you know that Luann and myself have been working on the tax recap. So hopefully by the time we do get a school number, we should have mostly everything ready to go, vetted through the DOR if there's questions. So we are hoping, even if we burn the midnight oil, that we will get a tax rate set. And if we're here in our, pajamas stuffing bills, we'll be doing it, so we can get them out on the 31st, so whatever we need to do.
I'll come and help.
Yeah,
Yep,
so-
I'll come and help.
So we're doing the best we can, but hopefully we can get that button sent as soon as we do get a school number and you guys meet,
Okay.
so,
What day is Christmas on these? I'm just thinking that.
Wednesday, I
It's a
think it's a
Wednesday?
Wednesday.
Oh, okay, well, that kinda screws it up though, cause
yeah,
if they take,
I
I mean, you
know.
gotta think
No,
about
you're right,
those things
yeah.
to
Well-
get that mailed in, cause
yeah.
you don't know if anybody's gonna be there on the other end.
Yeah,
Well,
and we
that's-
already had a meeting,
And the
Luann.
31st is on a Tuesday.
Right,
Every day
31st
you
is on
get
Tuesday.
closer to the last day of the year, there are more communities in the
Yeah.
DOR queue.
yeah,
And the minute you get out of the DOR queue, you then move into the queue of the printing company that mails the bills.
right,
So we have a calendar that if we can get to a number a little bit before December 1, we'll be fine. Because we have to have that school number in order for you to balance your budget. So while that has been set tentatively for a vote on November 26th, you will not be in a position to take that vote until you have that final school number. So we may have to go to December 4, I believe, is the next opportunity for that vote.
Okay.
Cause the sooner we get in the inbox, the better.
yeah. And unfortunately, this year, with the upgrades in the vision program with the assessing office, typically by now, usually you have at least 100 communities that already have their tax rate set. As of, I believe, last week, there's only 50, because it is so delayed with the problems they've had with the vision and getting all the assessing certified, because all that has to be done. So they're gonna be slammed, and, depending on when you push that button, if they get 30 in one day and they can only get through 2, it's gonna be, and they're short-staffed. I mean, they're no different than the towns,
Everybody else.
that's the reality. So, anyway, but I just wanted to let you know that we are on top of it and have, as much possibly done as we can.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kelly.
See.
Yes.
He said thank you.
Oh, thank you. Enjoy that nice sun.
I know.
That was a good zinger.
Yes. Oh, man. Hopefully it's warm, too.
Did you get all that, Mike?
He's looking out the window right now.
Yeah.
Into the sun.
With the sign, yeah, she said, we can't see it, but she saw it.
So E is financial management policy review?
Yeah, the financial management policies, this is something that the board will periodically go through, update, and there's any anything particular that stands out to you in this document, I brought up a couple into the note on page 8B2AI, which is on page, yep, you got page number.
We didn't get anything in our packet.
No, under the
These?
weekly, excuse me.
Yeah, in the weekly we did.
In the weekly report, it would be under 4E,
Yep,
Or E or B?
no, E.
4E, under the weekly. That's how I placed it.
It would appear to.
I didn't mean to cause that confusion.
But it doesn't really say what you're talking about.
We will get you the text of that section. Is that the school issue?
Yeah, it doesn't say.
What is the issue?
No, it's the general stabilization fund balance. Oh, that's right, you don't even have this in front of you.
we don't
No,
have
that's
it.
why I'm like,
So is there anything that stood out to you?
No,
you
not
have
to
it.
me.
So there are two issues, if I might, that have come to us that we will get you some text on in the next couple of days. The first is that we are soon approaching the target level that was set for the operation stabilization.
So we wanna-
When that was set at 5%, it was actually a dreamer's goal, if you will, Terry.
There you go.
But it's quickly becoming a reality, and we think that it is too low. 5% would only be around $800,000, and one economic downturn or one disastrous event in town could quickly wipe that out. So we want to, after we get into the budget process, converse with you as to readjusting those levels, because we think they're too low. The second area of the financial management policy that we think needs some review
Was B,
is the target on the school. So we have three things going on. The first is that we increase it every year in our budget by 2.5%. The second is the policy actually speaks to net school spending when we believe it was meant to refer to minimum local contribution. After Mr. Hatch's presentation, I think we have a better understanding of the difference between the two. And the third is that either one of those does not compare to reality of what your assessment increases have been with the school district. So in December, hopefully, we can have a discussion with you about the size of these reserves, an appropriate way to project that school district assessment. And then finally, the question that we have out to you is, are there things in the financial management policy that you would like us to look at? We had two come up. They've been dealt with. That doesn't mean there aren't other issues in there. So we've dealt with the projection on real estate taxes. We've dealt with Terry's thoughts on the school. But the question then becomes, are there other things you would like us to look at? Because if they impact how we develop the budget, we need to know that in that December, January timeline.
this is just to get you thinking, and because when we go through these policies and we review all the documents and go into the budget, we want you to be reviewing the I mean, it's right on the website. I'm sure all of you researched it, so there's some areas that we recognized, and if there's any suggestions that you may have, this is an opportunity to, because you set the policy, to update it.
I have one.
Mhm.
It concerns gifts,
Yes.
and on page 15, it has grant administration, and it has, in the text, that, and it talks about department heads, pursuing a grant, and anyone could do that and so forth. But it says, if anyone submits an application for a grant, it's 5,000 or less,
Mhm.
they just go to the town administrator.
Okay.
If it's more than 5,000, you come to the Board of Selectmen. So and I recall this being discussed a while back, I think it was during Carter's time, so however many years that's been, but as far as like, sometimes departments would like, oh, it's gonna give me a box trailer, or they're gonna give me a car, or, and nobody knows anything about this, and then it breaks, and where did that come from? So I believe it was like, you know, you have to be aware of that. So if we get a gift, somebody says, hey, I wanna give you, I don't know, 72 tons of hot top. They're giving that to the town. I think the selectmen should be in on that and say, well, what's the catch? Are there any? And if if they say, no, I'm just, and they always get something out of it. They get a tax write-off, and they get publicity that you just can't buy.
Not
But
always
if-
necessarily good publicity.
Well, maybe good, maybe bad, but you get publicity. But they gave a gift to the town, okay? Thank you, 72 tons of hot top. That's awesome. Hey, Bob, I know you got a lot of roads. Where do you think you could best apply if it comes with no stipulations? If they say, I want to give you this and it's got to go there, well, let me think about this gift. But if it's a straight up gift, and that's a lot of money, 72 tons of hot top, it can do a lot of work. So, okay, we'll take that. Bob, where can you use that at? How are you gonna deliver that gift to us? You know, how are those things gonna work? I mean, you're just gonna bring it all and just dump it, or what's the arrangements of that gift? And any other gift that the town may get, I think we should have an item, a section in here right after the grants, maybe mirror that somewhat with gifts. If it's just hey, I wanna give you, 10 wheelbarrows or a couple of lawnmowers, okay, the town administrator can say, yep, okay. But if it gets big things, then I think it should follow that and come to the board as a policy of the town of gifts overall.
Okay.
Maybe this is big gift, it seems like it's cool, but they got, well, you gotta do this. It's sort of like, a while back, a housing development was gonna happen, and then it got canceled, and we were gonna do some work on the common, and they decided we'll do in-kind services of like 35 grand or something. That came to the board to vote whether, we would accept that or not, because I wanna know, does it come with stipulations? Maybe the stipulations, it's not worth accepting. That's just my thought on a thing that I noticed in the policy that I
Yeah,
would
I mean, that's a
consider.
good catch.
Yeah,
I mean, that's
not
something we
bad.
could,
Yeah.
Mike,
Okay.
hold on for 1 second. Here.
Yep.
The only thing I would think of is after a certain amount too, I would like to, I don't know if it would cost us anything, but to include the town people. You can't say thank you on behalf of the town of Templeton if the people don't have a say.
We can't always go to a town meeting to have the town people. That's why they elected the Board of Selectmen.
Like something big, like the land for like the senior center, some entity was gonna give it, that went to a town meeting. At
Right,
that time,
that's
it went to a town
Well,
meeting
could we
vote.
have a
But-
certain cap on it?
But I mean, like,
Anything over?
well, the selectmen approve the policy, and quite
Right.
frankly, you have to it has to go through a vetting process.
Right.
And that's why we're here tonight, bringing these up. Like Jeff noticed, Selectman Bennett noticed the gifts, and adding that, Carter and I reviewed, and we noticed some areas that we could certainly look at, in regards to moving forward in December with this. So there's other areas, and quite frankly, I think we recognize, some of them, and, it's a document that's always worked upon.
It's funny that you brought up the 72 tons of asphalt, because there's been a lot of talk around town about that, and that needs to be discussed by this board at the next meeting.
Absolutely.
Jump
I
in
didn't
now?
bring that up.
Oh, Mike's turn.
Go ahead, Mike.
Sorry.
Okay, so Jeff is right. I think that we definitely need to do that. And I think Terry had already brought up Section 53A, which talks about an amount of money, and then Section 53 and a half, 53A and a half talks about tangible items, or they don't use the law does not use in kind, but both of them require, if there is such a body of the Board of Selectmen, that they review that. And it
Right.
does have language in it, if no restrictions are attached to the gift for such other purposes as it deems advisable. So I'm 100% in favor of mirroring the Mass General Law 53A and 53A and a half to make sure that the Board of Selectmen is aware of the receipt of such gifts, because the people demand it. Whether we have the conversation now, Diane, that's up to you, but I think that
I don't know that that conversation belongs in a workshop, because I believe that action needs to be taken.
Okay, well, the financial management policy, as Jeff had asked for, an inclusion of gifts area should be modeled along the existing law for 53A.
Okay, well then, if you believe that, I think that I got several phone calls over the weekend from angry residents, and that no action was taken by this board, and that it was a substantial amount of asphalt, and they thought someone had taken a bribe. And I assured them that that would not happen, and that it went to a specific project, and that this board hadn't approved it.
All you have to do is watch the Board of Health meeting of Monday, and you can see
This is about pavement.
yeah,
On a
watch
certain
the
road.
Board of Health
So-
meeting Monday, and you will see where that comes up, and the tone of everyone in the room, and there were
Oh.
gentlemen there that looked right at Bond and said, that's not a gift, it's a bribe.
And that is crap.
Right, I assured them it was not a bribe, but
Well,
again,
if it was only
I didn't
meant
really
for-
know anything about it. So
Sorry.
I was caught off guard. But at any rate, when I read the weekly report today, I saw where it went and who it came from, but still, I was caught off guard as a board member.
Put it on the next agenda, Diane, I agree with you.
Action needs to be taken.
Okay.
So, or some better oh, sorry, I just lost my hearing aid, hold on. Some kind of action needs to be taken. Or just some further discussion, and I think Jeff is right, that gifts need to be included in that, and,
And the use of them.
and how we accept those, and what's the dollar amount, and does it have to go to something specific, or is it really just a gift, or, how are we going to do such things? I mean, if somebody wills something to us, like somebody willed just for the police station, just for the library, just for, but this, like I said, I don't know all the details at this moment, so I can't really speak with any coherency about that. So it's not fair for me to speak any further, but I think that at our next board meeting, that needs to be an agenda item. And that this needs to be definitely fledged out.
Okay.
Okay, we're all set with the financial management policy here? Okay.
We have OPEB review.
OPEB review.
Sorry, I didn't say
Other
that right.
post-employment benefits. So, Carter sent you out, or we emailed you on October 28th, the information pertaining to the OPEB and where we're at. I mean, the key here is to minimize the unfunded liability in the sewer department by keeping down the net liabilities, make progress. and with the general fund progress we can make until the retirement, because the Worcester Regional Retirement, I mean, with the unfunded liability, it goes way up. So when that starts going down, then we can start focusing on to the OPEB, and that's really where we're at. Everybody else got the email, in the email, Carter highlighted the sewer fund liabilities increased modestly while their net liabilities decreased roughly 7,000. Their budget commitment to a minimum of 25K. Moving forward, or going forward, given the size of their liability is the major factor in this positive change. And general fund net liabilities increased substantially by 1.7 million. This was driven by a substantial reduction in the discount rate, i.e. the interest rate we think we will earn on reserves from last year and our inability to make contributions. And keep in mind, when we talk about this, because that Worcester Regional Retirement System, and we have to pay those moving forward, that's why we're doing these projections. We're also including that increase in cost for the retirement. It's important to note that. But we do have a plan, and that will be something that we're gonna be focusing on after that drops off. And I think, off the top of my head, 14 years or so. So that's it for the OPEB review.
And the volunteer appreciation policy, did everybody have a chance to review that?
Yeah, as everybody remembers, I did the listening tour, and I met with all the boards and committees, with the exception of, I think, because at that night I went to the cable TV advisory. I didn't have time to write it up in the report. This is the draft policy. This board, obviously, do you want to do this policy moving forward? If there's any changes you want to make to it, this is something that I put together, and I mean, do you like this one?
Well, I guess the first question is, do you want to have a means of recognizing the volunteers or a volunteer on an annual basis, similar to the policy that you created for the employees? That becomes the first question.
I like this idea.
You like that one?
I like this idea, but I wanted other people to pipe in too.
Okay.
I think it's a lot to give of one's time and an effort toward their community.
I love it.
Yeah, it's, I think it was Napoleon who said people would go and fight and do a lot of things for a little piece of colored cloth, sort of the origination of ribbons and stuff you get in military, so, and to get people, if it gets people to volunteer, step up. It's hard these days. It's hard to get people to run, it's hard to get people to do things. People want things done, but, you know, you got family, kids, this, boom, boom, boom. A million excuses why I can't do it. So the few that do take the time and come and volunteer, and sometimes they're juggling.
Yeah, we don't even always know what.
It would be, again, if it can get people, keep them, for saying, you know, it's not a lot to come in and say, you know, thank you, and let people know, you know, what they do and the hours they worked and the time they put in and what was done.
So then if the
why?
board wants to
I
go
thought
down this
so.
route, then the next question then ultimately becomes, was the Board of Selectmen gonna do this by policy, or are we gonna do it by an article at the annual town meeting? How would you like to go about proceeding in that way? If you believe that this one is sufficient, how would you wanna go about doing this?
In some towns, it's been established by the select board. In other towns, it's actually been voted on at town meeting to try to give a little more oomph, I guess you would say. The question becomes, how would you like to proceed?
Dollars and cents, does it add anything to the bill of the town meeting, or? Because it'd be nice to get,
No,
No.
not at all.
it'd be nice to get it out there
The only,
at the town meeting
Yeah.
so that people can know it exists. That's my opinion.
the only difference is if it's a policy that you adopt,
Yeah.
you could probably make your first recognition of someone at the annual town meeting of 2020. If it is going to be an article on the town meeting warrant of 2020, the first opportunity to recognize someone would be 2021. So you're sort of balancing when you want to kick this off, and do you think that one has a little more clout, if you will, a little more cachet than the other?
I think it would be nice to be voted on by the Board of Selectmen, but definitely recognize them at the annual town meeting.
Because that would accomplish both things.
That
There
would-
you go, yeah.
Absolutely.
If you say you want to do it at town meeting to bring thinking, well, if we make arrangements, say, hey, come to the town meeting, we're gonna stand you up in front of all the people so you can say hi, and, on the stage, and,
We
you know,
really
give
wanna
you something or
recognize
say
you.
something, it could be almost like a report from the board.
Right.
Hey, because that's a requirement, all committees and boards can give a report to town meeting, we can stand up and say, somebody who, not me, but somebody can stand up and say, hey, we want to recognize, boom, 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 come up on the stage. These are the people that have been working, volunteering their time, doing these tasks, and saving your tax dollars, or stretching your stack dollars out.
And this
And
is.
you would accomplish two things.
I
The
think
board,
this
it'd
would
be
only
simply,
go
we'll
one
get it, because we'll
person.
get it done, because town meeting, who knows what's gonna happen? I mean, let's just face it, when you get, the democracy is, a pain in the ass system until you compare it with all the rest, and then, we would do two things.
So we've had Churchill, Napoleon, Browning, and Rousseau tonight. This really is
I'm getting around to quote
the
Carter
age
here.
of enlightenment, isn't it?
So, yeah, I think if we adopt it, and then we could do
Then
it
do
this
it
year,
at town meeting, yeah.
and get the
So,
clout that you want.
In that case, is that the consensus of the board then, that this would be established by policy of the board?
Yes.
I agree.
Okay.
Mike?
Yeah, I agree. Board of Selectmen judged, but presented at town meeting.
Yep.
And the only part of the policy that was in the packet that I don't understand and I think would be very difficult, it says the first nominee to receive 3 votes will be named Volunteer Service Award. So I think we just need to take a look at actually how that consideration is made, but, yeah, you've got my consensus for moving forward in that
Okay.
framework.
And we're gonna work around the open meeting law problem with this.
Yeah, so we have a little bit of work, now that we understand the board is supportive and it wants to head in this direction. We have a little more work to vote on this because we would like to obviously comply with the open meeting law while figuring out how to comply with it, while still keeping it a bit of a nice surprise to be awarded at the town meeting.
Right.
So it'll probably be that January workshop when you see this in a more formalized policy.
May I
Sounds
ask,
good.
Okay.
can I ask a question?
Mhm.
It's kind of a matter of semantics. So if you get 10 nominations, they're not every nomination is gonna be recognized? Like
No.
I just got this image conjured up that 10 people come up on stage at town meeting and the winner is, or, and the,
Oh.
that would not be good. I don't know. I would,
At the luncheon, I think I tried to avoid the word winner, and I think I tried to use the word honoree. I don't know if I
Honoree,
did that
yeah.
consistently. But yes, so for the employee recognition awards, I had 6 or 7. You recall offhand?
What do you mean for
How many
ensemble?
nominations we had?
Oh, more than that.
Yeah, we had a number of nominations, but
Did you call them all?
no,
Did you call them all up?
no.
Right, so we're not gonna do that, because then they just feel deflated.
We have a process and we have to pick, so
It's who we choose.
we'll have
That
to
person
develop a
comes up.
process that you're comfortable with, where one person that year will be honored.
I'm thinking,
Okay.
I'm thinking.
that'll be what's in our draft, subject to your
Mm-hmm.
revision and approval.
It would just be sad for them to be standing up on stage and it would just be a letdown. That's not right.
We couldn't do that. We wouldn't put ourselves in that situation.
No.
Exactly.
Well, you could look at it that way, glass half empty, glass half full, it'd be an honor to be nominated. And, you know, if you're nominated, then somebody cares that you did something for the town. Even if you don't get chosen, maybe you could send a letter, you were nominated, you know, I don't know,
I wouldn't want that letdown.
we have so many people that do volunteer.
But everybody
Again,
knows who volunteers. Most people
Yeah.
know who volunteers.
Again, we'll bring you a draft.
I think it's a
and-
2019 issue, you know, everybody's a winner. And if you're not, oh no.
But I think it's a way where we can certainly recognize that person,
Yes, it is, and I'm on
Just
board
like
with
that.
it. I'm on board
just
with
like
it.
that. Okay, we're ready? We good?
The next discussion topic is FY20 public and advisory committee consultation process.
And as you all know, I mean, with the schools, December 1, the commissioner, if it proceeds that way, will, secondary education will come in and set a budget. So we've been working in the office tirelessly to come up with proposed draft cuts that we intend to send out tomorrow.
Okay.
And then November 13th, we'll
It'll be on their agenda.
agenda.
Formally to receive it, yes.
And with that, then the informational hearing will be November 21st regarding the fiscal year 20 proposed cuts. It's not easy, and it's something that's a challenge, and it's a challenge that's holding up other work. We're ultimately working on 2 fiscal year budgets at the same time in the office, so we have different scenarios, 2 scenarios with a lower number and a higher number. And with that, wherever that commissioner sets that budget, we have to make sure that we're being proactive on the fiscal year 20 end. So that's where we're at, and Carter, unless I missed something?
We've already been proactive, and I hope that the public is aware of that.
Absolutely.
And that we already have made budget cuts. Every department has made budget cuts in anticipation of us not having come to budget terms, and that we have been proactive.
And I gotta, you know.
We did not spend to the limit.
And both chiefs on the public safety end have been very
Yep.
proactive.
Yep,
And,
we are lucky to have them.
And they did that, they met up with Carter and in the office, and they made a plan, and they stuck with it.
Mhm.
And that helped minimize the damage.
Those materials will go out to the advisory committee, as Adam pointed out. And we're saying to them that if you have alternative suggestions, we need them sooner so we can monetize them and comment on their viability, so that when we get into that informational session on the 21st, we're able to be as fully prepared as possible.
That's all I have.
And we have an action item, the Pleasant Street USDA loan.
Yeah, Carter's gonna take this one. I mean, generally, we don't take action items in the
At a
workshop,
workshop,
but
but-
because of the time restraint that we're under and the urgency to get this done, that's why. it's going up.
Unfortunately, we're dealing with the U.S. Department of Agriculture Rural Development, and they take much more lead time to close on these notes than do our bonding. So we have, these were just received by us. Holly, I think, was able to get them out to you this morning. These are the same documents that were voted by the prior board at the annual town meeting. The difference is, it's a new board, and the older documents are considered stale at this point after 6 months old. So what we need to ask you to do is to approve the replacement bonds and the various findings as presented to you in these various documents of today's date. And then Holly will need to get signatures from all of you this evening. 3 signatures will be sufficient so that we can get them out by courier tomorrow.
Is there some significant wording that needs to be stated for a motion in order to sign these documents?
Unfortunately, the bond counsel did not give us such a motion, but if you can give me a moment, I can draft one.
Okay, I just want to make sure we do it correctly.
Yep.
I can tell you that, let's see, what page is it? It is page 7, has language that has vote of the selectmen. It may be a little bit longer, but I mean, I can certainly help out with that. If you look at page 7, that's where the language is.
Oh, yeah.
Can someone bring me up to speed on all? I know he just said previous board, but Jeff, do you understand?
So let me back up. The sewer department, it needed to replace the Pleasant Street pump station. It was failed, and in fact, it was failing, and in fact, it failed during the course of trying to get this done. That project was approximately $2.3 million. Approximately $5.25 million came from a grant from the U.S. Department of Agriculture, and we are borrowing $1.725 million, $1,725,000. These are the loan documents by which we borrow that million. Now, this, at the end of the day, is pro forma. We have a $2.3 million bond anticipation note that has to be paid on, I believe, November 23rd. I could be wrong, but that may be the 22nd or something like that. So if we do not sign this loan and close this loan, we will not have any funds with which to repay that bond anticipation note, and we will be in default. I know that at a previous meeting, one board member did vote against that. But you will be in default if we do not take this loan out.
Does that help?
No, I feel really bad, but the whole project is 2.3 million?
Yes,
And what is the 5 million? So 5 million.
about $525,000. 5.25, $525,000.
Is what?
A grant
A grant,
from the Department of Agriculture.
yeah.
The 1.725 is a loan. And then there's some cash that came out of the,
So you're saying that the loan and grant add up to 2.3?
I'm saying that the loan and the grant add up to roughly $2.25 million. Then there's some monies that the sewer department has expended on behalf of this, and we have that budgeted already. If you look at their budget, you're gonna see some repayment of the ban already on their books.
The 5 million is throwing me off.
There's no 5 million.
There's no 5 million.
525,000.
525,000.
Right here.
5.25
That's,
thousand.
that's the loan, I mean,
Yeah.
the grant, that's the bond, you add them together and you get 2.3.
Okay,
And some of that, the sewer had some funds that they threw in there, which gets, so drops it down, so,
okay.
Yeah.
And we have to pay it back?
not the grant,
Just,
just
the
the
loan.
the
The
1.725,
1.725.
right.
Yes,
how long do we have to pay that?
40 years.
40?
That is, it's a 40-year loan from the Department of Agriculture I don't have the interest rate in front of me. It's in the upper twos. Wait a minute. I may have the interest rate in front of me. It's at 2.25%. Every 5 years, you will have what's called a step-up. You have to submit financials to them, and if they believe your financial condition is such that you could refinance this in the private market, you are supposed to do that and repay them. In reality, very few communities ever move out of that honeymoon, if you will, to where they have to pay it off. And these funds are paid by the sewer department out of sewer user fees. This is not paid from the general fund.
That's important. Did the sewer department come under our bylaws? Because I did read that we're supposed to pay down half the debt in 10 years or something like that. Is that a totally different situation?
The sewer fund is a town department with two exceptions. First exception is that the sewer commissioners have charge of the operation of the plant and the collection system. They set the policies for that. That is not under the purview of the select board. The second is that the sewer commissioners appoint the superintendent. The town administrator appoints all other staff at the sewer department.
Okay.
So if there's no other questions, I can give you I'll try to give you the quick version of the vote.
Much obliged.
Do you want to read it and I'll
read it?
just say so moved?
Sure. And second, we're gonna have a clerk pro tem selected from amongst you tonight, because it's the clerk that has to certify this.
Mike, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I know what to say. I've got the copy of it.
Yep, perfect.
Oh, okay. Go
Perfect.
ahead.
On page 7, it's just, it'll take just about a minute to read through it, but I move that the sale of the following 2.25% bond of the town dated November 18th, 2019, 1.725 or $1,725,000 sewer pump station replacement bond payable in annual principal installments of $45,395 on November 18th in each of the years 2020 through 2056 inclusive, and $45,385 on November 18th in the year 2057, with interest thereon calculated from November 18th, 2019. To the United States of America, acting through the Rural Utilities Service, United States Department of Agriculture, at par in accrued interest, if any, is hereby confirmed. And that the total amount approved to be issued may be reduced as may be required by the USDA, and the periodic installments may also be reduced to reflect any such reduction in the amount approved be borrowed by this vote. The annual installments amounts may be subsequently amended by the USA Rural Utility Service, USDA, to make minor rounding or computation adjustments, and we hereby authorize the treasurer to approve such minor changes, and that the bond shall be subject to redemption upon such terms and conditions as are set forth in the bond, and that each member of the Board of Selectmen, Board of Sewer Commissioners, the town clerk, the town treasurer, and any other officials of the town be and hereby are authorized to take any and all such actions and execute and deliver such certificates, receipts, or other documents as may be determined by them or any of them to be necessary or convenient to carry into effect the provisions of the foregoing votes.
I have a first. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a first and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none. Jeff, how do you vote?
Yes.
Terry?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well.
We would ask that the board appoint a clerk pro tem this evening, so we can have the document signed.
Okay, we need a clerk. Does anybody have anyone they would like to appoint?
I make a motion to appoint Terry Griffiths as clerk pro temp for the purposes this evening.
I will second that. I have a first and a second. Jeff, how do you vote?
Yes.
Terry?
I get to vote for myself, of course.
Sure.
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. So that will be Terry. Okay. Thank you, Mike, for doing that. I'm gonna turn you around. I just wanted you to be able to see Carter while he spoke.
Thank you.
Actually, does any board member have any comments that they would like to make before we adjourn the meeting? Anything for any next agenda item or new business, old business, anything? Thank you, Adam, for this evening. Thank you, Carter.
Can I check my notes?
Mhm.
Just double check and see if there's any- Sorry, I just have to check my notes. Oh, there was something that, Mr. May and the advisory board on communication, sending, how to coordinate communication. I guess they sent a letter out, doing the, asking the Board of Selectmen to study regional districts. And I think we had said something about studying, breaking, regional agreements too, and we never came around to it, but there was
Actually, we do, was that about advocating?
doing a study on what it costs to break from the regional.
Did I not read that email? I'm
No,
sorry,
it
I'm
was-
so tired.
There was, so, I can show you, I have it here. I just have to find it if that's okay. I know I had 3 things, but. Apparently, the advisory board sent us a letter, and we didn't get it. And it was, let me see. They sent us a letter and we didn't get it, and they wanted to figure out how to make communication more fluid between the boards.
An email or letter?
It was a letter, a written letter, and I'm just trying to find it, because here it is. It was dated October 18th, 2019. It said, September 19th, 2019, the advisory committee had a discussion motion and a vote about the town having a need for an ad hoc committee in regard to the town's financial constraints within the current education yearly budgetary increases, and it goes on, and then it was, so that was the opening of the letter. But it was supposed to come to all of us, and it was sent out by the advisory board, and I didn't get it. I didn't get it, and that's what, Mr. May had sent all of us, I believe, an email trying to figure out where the breakdown is, where the breakdown in communication was.
So what is your suggestion?
I'd maybe put it on the agenda for next week, and,
Because we do communicate with them, like we ask them to come to meetings and we could include them and this is just about the school budget?
yeah. Do you want to hear the whole letter, or should?
No,
how-
I don't.
How can
Not
anybody,
now.
how can we get this letter out to everybody? Should
Well,
they
with
resubmit it?
respect, if the advisory committee sends a letter and they don't send it to the selectman's office, or they don't select it to the town administrator, or they don't send it to all the members of the select board, do you really wish to take up agenda time to discuss mailing letters 101?
Right.
I mean, it's really very simple.
They
If
have
the
to mail it to
advisory committee has a letter, send it to Holly, or send it to me, or
And then it goes out to everybody.
email it to the chairman, and it will be placed on a the agenda or distributed as appropriate. I'm afraid I'm
I
struggling to
don't know where the
understand the issue.
breakdown was. I just don't know where the breakdown was, because we never got it. Did you get one? We never got it, and that was the question.
That's only one letter, though.
Yeah.
We get a lot of other stuff. I get all kinds of stuff from Bob May,
Okay,
all kinds.
all right. Well, I just figured I'd bring it up.
So
Okay.
who sent the letter?
Bob May. So, but I get all kinds of stuff from him. So maybe that was just a while ago.
Well, nobody got back to him. It said, so she said, we were not copied in the email that was supposed to go out to the selectmen, and nobody's,
Send it to the town administrator and he'll take care of it.
okay. All right, and then,
That'll
Because they'll-
solve that.
okay,
That's what I do usually.
okay,
I just say, how has this been taken care of? And a lot of times they'll say to me, I never got it. And then
okay,
it gets taken care of.
okay,
That's what I do.
Just forward it to him.
all right, I will.
Okay, anything else? Jeff?
Nope, I don't think of any.
Mike, do you have anything?
I do have something.
Okay.
Remember, as the chair, I get to set the agenda, so if we're gonna add something to the agenda for our board, please make sure that you guys talk to me first. Send me your ideas. If you're talking about communication, if you want something on the agenda, I speak with Holly all the time. Sometimes I don't answer her back right away, and we go with the agenda that she has in front of us, because I don't have any input to it. But if you have something, please address it with me. That's what I do as the chair, and that's all I have for this evening. Thank you for putting up with Skype.
I love that we can do this. Do you like it?
I think it's, as Steve Drury said when he was here the last time that I was on Skype, he appreciated the town's exhausting every opportunity to serve.
Yeah,
And in
I
his
like it.
capacity, I certainly appreciate Diane the last time he did it, and then Holly setting it up on one of the town
Yeah.
machines. It very much works for me. I'm very much used to it. I'm glad that we were able to be able to make this a norm.
Yeah, me too. Okay, I don't have anything, so I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
And I need a second.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
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 Great. We are adjourned.